Hi, everyone. This is Bob Samuels. Thank you for joining us for another Can with Bob ABM Leaders Group discussion with one of my favorite folks out there, Jay McBain, very sharp channel leader. And so it's a pleasure to reconnect. How are you today, Jay?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. So for those who don't know you, if you can give a little bit of a background about you, and then any kind of a fun fact that maybe someone wouldn't know if they looked at LinkedIn and they wouldn't know about you.
Sure. So Jay McBain, Chief Analyst at Canalys, been in the channel for 30 years, and I tend to count a lot, as you can see over my shoulder. As other people have opinions and guidance, I tend to try to figure out a way to build out the structure or the system underneath. So yes, been doing this quite a long time from different vantage points in the industry. And now at Canalys, which is Latin for channel, so we focus on the partnerships, the alliances, the ecosystems, kind of all of the ways that 75% of world trade happens, which is indirectly, and how all the plumbing inside of that, the people, the processes, and the underlying technology works to make that go.
Wonderful.
Fun
Um,
fact, I just got back from 3 weeks in Africa on a safari.
how was
So
it?
it was good. Just trying to get back onto this time zone. The kids are still getting up at 4 in the morning, ready for camp. So just getting this week back to normal.
I'm jealous. I think was that your 100th country you visited?
So Madagascar became the 100th country around the world. So I have, I guess, 93 of them left.
Oh my. All right, I'll look forward to an update. So good. So thank you everyone for coming. Here's a code. If you can go to Menti, which is a cool little survey tool. I want this to be a pretty interactive kind of a fireside chat sort of discussion because there's a lot of sharp people in the audience that I want to make sure they get their thoughts and their questions in. Um, as far as the Menti, let me go ahead and get a quick survey up. And the survey is asking people to um, sure, let's see how we do this. Okay. Is everybody able to access the survey question? Um, yeah, there we go. We already got some answers. So if you can go to Menti answer, got a few answers. So while people are chiming in, I'll go ahead and get started. So Jay, we've talked a little bit before, and so I've got some good background information. But what can you tell me a little bit more about the channel strategies versus regular market, regular ABM versus channel ABM, which I guess you provided a term before, PBM, partner-based marketing.
Mhm.
How do you define partner-based marketing?
Yeah, I mean, the difference is it's just a little bit broader. It's not wrapped around direct sales and direct marketing techniques. It's the realization that the average customer, and this is a mid-size, medium-sized customer or larger, has 7 partners they trust. And that's from, the very early moments of their journey while they're learning and while they're, trying to figure out, what their outcome could be or ought to be. And those 28 moments before they make a decision, the point of making the decision, and now with a lot of subscription consumption models, that point is only the first 30 days of the next part of their journey in terms of implementing and integrating and getting towards that outcome. But now, we're in this customer for life, every 30 days forever. And if every one of those customers, so, account-based marketing, this whole idea of winning the deal never stops. Account-based marketing doesn't stop at that initial transaction. It repeats from the very early moments through the transaction every 30 days forever. But recognizing there's 7 partners on average that are there influencing the customer, that are there that could be, obviously helping us translate our messaging and our language and our content and getting to the customer at the right time. And it may be moving the customer along the journey towards a sale. It could be solidifying the sale, but more so than anything right now with the customer for life, it's the upsell, the cross-sell, the enrichment, this idea that all of us are being targeted differently now, where, it's not just, customer retention, that the market actually wants us to see us retain at 108% now, meaning that if we lose a customer, we have to double up everybody else. And if I'm owning this, kind of customer relationship from a vendor perspective, I have to realize that it's a team sport, that there's many people around the table, and how we work with those people, what their business model is, and how they define success may be different in every situation. And the programs and how we kind of measure and monitor and manage all of that ought to be part of ABM, because it really is part of that overall customer relationship, overall customer execution.
So those 7 trusted partners are potentially gatekeepers or influencers, but basically people that need to get through them to get to the client, because the client isn't necessarily taking phone calls.
Right. So like all of us, and this goes beyond, this is just considered purchase. This has nothing to do with buying software, or buying a car, buying a mattress. Any considered purchase, we tend to wrap ourselves, highly digital nowadays, but we tend to wrap ourselves around a circle of trust. And there's so much in terms of false information or information overload, so much noise and clutter in the world. And now with generative AI, there's so many hallucinations happening that we want to attract ourselves to humans that can help us along the journey. And when we collect ourselves with 7 partners, I don't want to get confused here. This is not just like 7 resellers or 7 system integrators or 7 ISVs. It's not one type of partner. What you're trying to do, like any team sport, is field a team of players. You can't win with 11 quarterbacks on the field. You've got to have everybody who does their job. So over my shoulder, there's a Venn diagram of 20 different partner types. And that partner might be helping the customer with their particular role. They might be a head of marketing. They might be the head of finance, whatever their role is. They might be helping them with the industry they're in. There's 297 sub-industries. And that particular industry, the regulation, the compliance, the governance, the local piece that goes into that, the geography that they're in, changes state by state, province by province, country by country, wherever they are in the world. The segment they're in, from the SMB right up through enterprise, government, everything works differently. And you need that skill based on who you are and the resources you have and how you approach a problem. The categories of technology, if I just talk about software and SaaS for a minute, which is $272 billion, there's 2,262 SaaS categories on G2 Crowd. So somebody who has an expertise in terms of the 7-layer stack the customer is going to be putting together at a product level, feature, function, executing, implementation, integration level. And then business models, partners who have managed services versus project-based services versus consumption models versus subscription models. There's 20 different kinds of models that the customer is going to implement. So if I'm thinking of surrounding myself with 7 people, I want to make sure that those 6 things are covered. And maybe the 7th person is a reseller or somebody who can execute a digital marketplace, whatever can execute once all that great knowledge is put together.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And then I'm going to go ahead and present the results of the first survey. So our audience is pretty mixed. We've got but what I call them brands. I don't know, what do you call them, Jay? The company that basically wants to promote their product through their channels.
Yeah, I mean, brand is all 27 industries, a generic term. I mean, in technology, most call themselves vendors. In finance, I could call themselves, banks or insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies. I mean, it's industry specific, but marketers look at the brand as kind of that position. Different than a distributor, different than a partner, different than obviously the customer.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because I use it vendor separately as the one that deeper in the funnel, but whatever. So so lots of channel partners, distributors, solution providers, non-channel folks. So
Brand, by the way, does have, I worked for Forrester for 5 years in B2B marketing. And I'll say that there's B2C and B2B2C connotations in brand.
Uh-huh.
Like Coca-Cola as a brand, McDonald's, Starbucks as a brand.
Right.
When you get into B2B, usually the conversation is, again, deeper in the funnel, like vendors, suppliers, etc.
So
OEMs,
brand is more of a B2C
manufacturers.
term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So the vendor, the vendor. Okay. Good job. So the one of the things we talked about was particularly the newer buyers, the millennials. People aren't answering their phone. They're not responding to email. They don't want to be sold to. So, and you talked about, needing to get to them through the 7 trusted partners. What other advice do you have for salespeople? Because, they've got to be frustrated that their regular outreach is not effective.
Yeah, and the first thing is, and the best salespeople that I've ever met in the world mirror their customer. Every customer is different, and there's no platitudes. When you said nobody wants to be sold to, that's actually not true. There are a number of people, and especially if it's not something you're not that concerned with, like some people could care less what kind of car they drive. It's just point A to point B. They're okay driving over to, Larry at the dealership and getting sold to. Because it's a waste of their time to go through 28 moments and download invoice prices and back end rebates that month and do all the configuring and stuff like that. In some cases, but the salesperson has to know, is this a customer that doesn't want to be sold to? And the vast majority do not, but they do want to be surrounded, again, that circle of trust. And we're all weary a little bit of sales and marketing folks. So we may not put a particular brand or vendor's salesperson in our circle of trust, especially during the first moments. In the 28 moments on average it takes before, pulling the trigger, in the first 15 to 20 moments, and that's before a demo, that's before kind of the sales process clicks in. We may actually want to avoid, putting somebody that actually has a bias into our circle of trust. We want to feel maybe we can surround ourselves that don't have skin in the game, and the advice that we're getting maybe is more unbiased. And then maybe later on, if we do, meet people that are critical to our success, and we build a bond with, and they mirror our behaviors, they will earn a spot in those 7 trusted seats around a buyer. So that's always the first thing is, don't try to be a quick, fast talking New York salesperson to somebody laid back that wants to, think about everything and chew on everything and spend 6 months reading the T's and C's and redlining documents and stuff. If you've got a customer like that, just become a seller that looks more like a lawyer that's sitting there redlining with them and is okay with them, being in their natural habitat.
Know your customer.
Yeah.
Very good. So one of our attendees, so Louise Crawford, has a good question. I'm going to promote her to panelist and let her jump in with her question.
Sure.
Hi, nice to see you again, Jay.
Good to see you.
I love what you're saying about, it's really important to think about the customer. And, I think all of this is really based upon relationships. And, what we do, I've recently joined Ariaka, and we have such an amazing global partner program. It's called the Accelerate program. And we work with, these technology solution distributors to really work at the account level. Yep. When we're implementing ABM. So like everything we do with them is ABM. So we're looking at where they have relationships, where we have relationships, and we build it as a part of like that business plan to begin with. So instead of this like traditional to and through, we're actually kind of starting from the basis of our sales and marketing relationships with these partners to be able to, see who's actually in which account, and make sure that we're leveraging relationships, we're making everything really relevant for them. So this is like resulted to, gosh, it's like 83% of our company revenue actually comes from the channel. And, we've got like 26% year-over-year growth, and we're just seeing so many good returns from it. And, that's through primarily the technology solution distributor channel. And I'm just wondering, how do you see that kind of approach playing out in like the wider channel ecosystem? Because to your point, there's so many different types of channel partners, right? We found the path that we think is the fastest to market and the most meaningful to the customer. But I'm really curious to what you see as a part of, how this affects other parts of the channel ecosystem.
Yeah, great question. And I followed Craig and you, and I followed the journey very closely. Love watching the growth and things like that. One of the conversations I have most often about ABM, about partnerships, is where to draw the line. You mentioned 82% and, a very big part of your business and stuff like that. We all live in the 80-20 or the 90-10 rule, whether, some key partnerships, some key customers really drive the bulk of our business. And those are absolutely easy, to kind of figure out how to surround and use all the great ABM, PBM type techniques to do. What we find, those companies go too deep and they stretch their sales and marketing teams too far. And now you're kind of into the long tail and you're trying to run ABM strategies where they shouldn't be. When you write, and it's really bifurcated, the modern vendor like yours, who's growing as quickly as you are, through tech solution distributors, through partners of different type, agents, as well as VARs, as well as MSPs and others, is really drawing that line. And then having a top-down ABM approach, and then having a bottom-up approach coming to meet that in the marketplace. And the bottom-up approach is not ABM. It's community-led, and it's really kind of ecosystem-led marketing. And it's using what we call like the spheres of influence. And if you can talk to these partners and even talk to customers at their point of influence, you can't afford to apply resources, especially, given the last couple of years and every company's had to kind of tighten their belts. We can't afford to cover the market the way we did in the past. But we can afford to make sure that in our points of influence, as we're going through our 28 moments, as we're going to an event, which 35% of people kind of prefer that face-to-face event environment, which means 2/3 of people don't. There's 33% of people who love emails. There's 12% of people who love podcasts. Out of all the 30 vehicles, we've kind of built these spheres of influence. And there's a way that a company like yours can invest and make sure that you're at the key events, that you're on the key podcasts, that you're in the right magazines, that you're in the right spheres of influence, so that you're in those moments and recognizing, and the partners as well see you in those moments, but you're not deploying kind of linear resources in marketing and sales, pushing company by company through the cycle, if that makes sense. So that's this is one of the hardest things to manage, is top down and bottom up, and really drawing that line at where it makes economic sense and how you can measure, monitor, and manage your entire market TAM, your service available under it, your service obtainable underneath that, and go and continue to grow as fast as you're growing.
Brilliant. Some great advice there. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'm gonna move you. See, I'll move you back, or I'll leave you, or whatever. Let's see.
I can take myself off video. How about that?
Okay, that's good.
There we go. There we go. And I'll be quiet.
All right. Thank you. All right. So wanted to talk a little bit about AI, and it's a hot topic. It's got some interesting applications. It's got some caveats and dangers. And it's got some future. So tell us a little bit about your perspective of AI today. I guess is a good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm extremely excited about it. I'm not in the camp that we just lit up Skynet and Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to appear, anytime now. Obviously, we see the dangers, but from a business perspective, one of the first reports we wrote was $158 billion in channel partnership opportunity in services around AI. And how this, for the people that argue it's going to take jobs, it's going to be like the industrial revolution, the agricultural revolution, all the points in history that there will be more jobs created, but they won't look like the jobs that were prior. So the fact of it is, we're not all retiring, we're not all being replaced. It's just we got to keep on top, keep our heads on a swivel, and keep our skills at the very forefront. And every single one of us should be using AI every day. And as an analyst, I use it. It's become my search engine. It's replaced Google. And as I think about my own role, and as I think about my company, we all have to be thinking about that. So now the challenges in AI now are taking what is now this consumer trend. We've all had it write poetry and write a music, a song for us, and be dazzled as it writes us an 800-word blog that with a few tweaks we could actually publish. So we're dazzled with it, but it's a consumer dazzlement. The real benefit of AI and kind of the long 5 and 10-year window here is the business data that can actually train and tune these large language models. 85% of the world's business data today sits on premises. It hasn't been shoved into SaaS. It hasn't been shoved into public clouds like AWS or Microsoft or Google. It actually sits resident. And for us to rethink our relationship with the car company we buy from, the bank, the insurance company, the pharmaceutical company, all the major industries we deal with, the business data they have, and as it tunes these major models from OpenAI and Anthropic and Google Gemini and stuff, that's the magic of AI that's coming. And so as we kind of rethink our worlds with a co-pilot, sitting on our shoulder, looking over our shoulder, kind of the scariness of some of big tech, of what they've talked about, Microsoft watching your screen all day long, and little Clippy gets a lot smarter. But we can all think about as humans, kind of evolving to the next level. When every word we've ever said, every call we've ever been on, every email we've ever received, every document that we didn't have the time to read has been consumed by our co-pilot. And just whether it's on some sort of vision on our right-hand side, kind of like Terminator, we've got, suggestions, or it's on the side of our screen, or it's at the side of our glasses, whichever format, we're going to become much smarter. And, the way we do our jobs, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in selling, whether you're in customer success, whether you're in partnerships, is going to be infused with a really smart engine to do ABM better. And so that's the exciting part of this. And we're watching the companies that are on the forefront of this right now and trying to figure out who the ultimate winners are going to be. But it's not going to be as much as we think. It won't be a chip company that, is worth $3.5 trillion today. There'll be a lot of competition, and that'll roll back into being a commodity at some point. It's not going to be a bunch of new startups that, just somehow change the world. It's going to be in how the companies we trust today implement this and, stay in a leadership position. So the SaaS stack that we have today, for example, 14,107 SaaS tools, we're relying on those companies to make their product better and make our lives better. And every time we log in, there's going to be new functionality and new chances to take it to the next level. And we just all have to be on the forefront of that. We have to be clicking those buttons. We have to figure out how this is going to work for our customers and prospects. We have to figure it faster than our competitors do.
So it'll be new features from existing solution providers, or existing SaaS companies, if you will.
Yeah, and the 7 people that surround every buyer, the 8th one will be virtual. The 8th one will be their co-pilot. And so over time, I mean, a few years from now, we're going to be figuring out the SEO part of large language models. You know, how to get some of my research into these language models. So if you ask OpenAPI or Gemini about the decaded ecosystem, you know, somehow my company pops up as one of their sources. It's not hallucinating, and they're starting to source themselves now. And as my customer, you know, their eighth trusted person around them, or quasi person, you know, starts to influence them in that way, we're going to figure out, like, kind of like we figured out with Google, you know, 20 years ago, but more so 10 years ago on SEO, how to get on page one, how to kind of trick the algorithm. We're going to be figuring this out with large language models as well, to make sure that, you know, out of all the choices the customer has, we somehow, you know, have the trusted co-pilot speak on our behalf as well, much like partnerships.
Yeah, interesting. So of those companies that you mentioned, or of those tools you mentioned that do the generative AI, do you have any favorites, or any of them better than others as far as different applications, summaries, or research, or?
Yeah, it's very capital intensive. If you've looked at the price of a single NVIDIA chip, you understand why they became a $3.5 trillion company. So what you do is you look at the 250,000 SaaS companies, for example, the kind of the tools we use in marketing and in selling and in customer success, and you start at the top. You know, Salesforce with Einstein, you know, got kind of a, you know, head start, and they're investing and you know, transforming their company around it. In marketing, you know, from Eloqua to Marketo to HubSpot to Pardot, you know, switching around, you know, kind of that, and some of the big layers of marketing tech, MarTech and ad tech out of the 14,000 are investing. If a company down the, you know, a smaller SaaS company just adds ChatGPT, which is easy to do, and, you know, what used to be a window where you could create an email or create a communication, a piece of content or something, and now they have a button to do that automatically. That's one thing. But actually building, training, tuning a private language model that ingests all the data, you know, from around the world, the bigger data lake, that's going to require more investment than just a partnership with one of the AI companies. And so a long way to say that I think it'll be top down. I think, you know, ServiceNow, I think Workday, I think NetSuite, I think, you know, as you go through all kind of the SaaS leaders, they're going to be there. The three big hyperscalers are absolute winners, and all of them, you see their consumption going up significantly, to the point where the European Union and the US government are all over this, and half the world's population are in elections this year, and that's a big election issue, is how big tech is getting bigger, and they're already winners of AI and will be winners. But in the end, it's when that business data at the edge gets consumed, gets trained and tuned into these models, where the broader, you know, trillion-dollar opportunity around AI sits. This is the channel. These are local businesses. These are the companies that are going to be enriched via this trend. That's what we're waiting to see.
Interesting. So Andy Gilbert, one of our attendees, has a question. I'm going to promote him up. Actually, I can put up another survey question as we go here. If people want to answer the next Minty question.
Hey, Bob. Hi, Jay.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Here I am. Yeah, so, yeah, I just put that question in the chat, Jay. You know, given that AI is, I think you described it as the engine for ABM to do better. Are you alarmed or encouraged by what you see? I think I think, as you were alluding to, Jay, there's a big gap between the kind of, you know, the wordsmithing of ChatGPT and the real data analytical manipulation that is the potential of AI. what do you see at the moment? Are you encouraged or alarmed?
I'm encouraged, but it's very early. And I'm not frustrated, but I'm kind of living in anticipation. I'm thinking of everything I do in my personal and professional life, and dealing with old school chatbots. When you miss a flight and you have to deal with a 2-hour delay on the phone because the technical tool, the app doesn't do what you're trying to do. I liken it in the past to, remember when banking apps got their start and we're like, okay, this is interesting. I can see my balance. And then over time, okay, I can pay a bill. And then it got to a point we look backwards and goes, I have not seen a bank teller in 3 years. I can cash my checks. I can do this. I can do this. Almost, I can run wires. I can do anything I could do in front of a bank teller, I could do in this app. And now I'm thinking, wow, I think of everything I buy, everything I, do on a day-to-day basis. If I've got that level of connection, they've got my entire history. They know my, what I'm doing, where my headspace is at. They know, to some people that's frightening, and it's a huge privacy issue. To me, I've always been on the other side where for me, productivity, I mean, there's nothing really for me to hide. And if they have my business data and they can, secure it in a certain way that my bank balance and banking information doesn't get to the next person, I can see the next level of banking app not being a bunch of buttons, but just an interface.
Yeah.
And if I can have even a conversation, with the interface, kind of exactly what I want to do with my mortgage and maybe move some funds over into my 401k. Like if I can have this long conversation like I'd have with, a banking person, over text, over, a voice, over whatever it is, or having the choice of doing it in person. I mean, that's what has me probably the most excited.
I guess as well, Jay, it underlines the importance of trust. You mentioned that in your previous comments that, if you trust the organization, you're going to be much more cool about them having that insight, having all that data on you. If there's not that relationship, or even worse, you don't trust them, then you're kind of scuppered from the start.
Yeah, I mean, there's two kinds of trust, right? I mean, there's the trust on, social media. Like you knew by anything you do within Facebook, you're the product on the internet. Whenever you're getting something for free, you know that you're the product. So you just realize that every word, every action, every click, every conversation you have in your kitchen around Alexa is fair game. But I would have a different level of trust with my insurance company, with my, my car manufacturer, with my pharmaceutical, my pharmacy. All the other things I purchase, I would assume would be very structured and closed off. I would never expect the Bank of America or Citibank to go and sell the conversation I'm having. And if I happen to be talking to their interface, talking about, I'm not sure if my life insurance is, where it needs to be, and then I get 10 quotes in the next few minutes and people texting and reaching out ready to, that would destroy that trust very fast. So the business data, connecting to the interface is the win in AI for every company in every industry, kind of the $105 trillion world economy. That's the win. This circle of trust, this security barriers, the governance around it becomes everything. Because you only need to break it once.
Yeah. Amen. Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to bring Louise back for another question, and then someone else had a question for both you and Jay, you and Louise. So Louise, yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually put myself back on there. Hey, so Jay, really interesting what you're saying about how we've got to trust certain vendors to bring that quality of AI delivery into their products. But, there are so many out there, and it's not even just about the selection, it's about the utilization. And what I have found in my past couple of, jobs is that we're starting to bring these AI tools in, but we don't have the bandwidth to manage them all. There are only so many SaaS products you can use and optimize. And now we've got all these different, they're all shooting AI components at us. And we're a little bit overwhelmed with like, who's the best? Who should we go for? Even if we have the spend, how do we actually utilize it? Because it creates a lot of bandwidth issues. And so what's your opinion on how to approach this with somebody with a budget and, you know, a business challenge, and you want to use AI, but you've got to be conscious about, you know, how to utilize it without draining everyone's bandwidth?
Yeah, so the thing that's emerging is really this platform economy. And what we've had so far, you know, acting as a platform, if I just pick on MarTech for a minute, I mentioned the Marketos and Eloquas and HubSpots of the world, you know, kind of acting as the, you know, the center of a 14,107 ISV tech stack. That's Scott Brinker's MarTech stack that, you know, all those logos fit on one page. So, you know, this is what we've had now for 10 years. And every year the tech stack grows by 1,000 to 2,000 logos. We keep thinking consolidation. We think we've hit the top. And then he publishes next year's with 15,000 or 16,000 and 17,000. And the thing keeps getting bigger. So with or without AI, our jobs were getting much more complex. The average CMO in many companies, by the way, spends more money on technology now than the CIO. So the idea that, you know, I'm trying to piece together a tech stack that works for me, my industry, my geography, you know, what I'm trying to do as an outcome. But the average stack today is 7 layers. So the average buyer, you know, has this challenge, AI again or not, of piecing together 7 things, having 7 different tools build different parts of a data lake. It's data ponds that aren't connected. So this is where this behavior, this new buyer behavior we talk about, the number one criteria, not only of marketing buyers, but all buyers now, is becoming integration first. So your price is important, your service, your support, your brand reputation, all the things that might have been important to, you know, days gone by when you issue an RFP. First and foremost is integrations. So I'll buy a product today, 80% as good as the next one, if it works better in my environment, my 7-layer stack, and I'm not creating ponds, I'm creating one thing. The idea of a platform, though, is that I don't need 7 tools to log into. If a tool is doing a very particular thing and it does it well, I'm not sure I never, ever have to log in as long as my platform is absorbing that value. And this is where AI, I think, is going to improve things. Is, you know, every single SaaS company wants you to create an account and log in and spend time on their platform, and that's how they get measured in their own KPIs. But in the end, you know, it's going to be a set of platforms and a set of tool makers. And, you know, for those of us, I think it's going to get easier if we're buying on this integration first. That means that every one of those 14,000 companies has to make sure they work well in the sandbox, they work well with others, and what they're actually doing, the mousetrap that they solved for, benefits everything else. And take away this whole idea that you have to log into my tool too and download my analytics and do the workflows and the processes and the business logic in my tool. And I think as buyers, we're going to start to demand, as our tech stacks go from 7 layers to 8 to 9 to 10 to 11, that we have a single pane of glass to be able to do that. We don't want the single pane of glass to become 5 miles wide. We're not going back to the old world of all things to all people. We're okay with best of breed, but that best of breed has to serve us, serve our workflows and processes down into that single pane of glass, build this singular data lake that then we can feed to large language models. AI is going to help, I think, circulate that. And our lives are never going to get easier. But this road we're on now, which is unsustainable.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And Louise, stay there because James Miller has a question, I think, for both of you. So I'm going to bring James up.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, James.
Hey, Louise, how are you? Hey, Bob. Nice to meet you, Jay. Yeah, I was thinking more about the go-to-market with channel partners. How's it changing? And I'm seeing there's a lot more smaller events happening, for example, and digital's taking the back seat because no one can get any leads. And now you're talking about AI and how's that helping, partner managers, do their jobs better. So keen to hear about some of the channels that are working in your mind, as well as how folks can use AI to drive more conversions.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think I probably spend more of my day on this question than any other, because 35,000 different vendors are asking the question. And that's from, Microsoft on top, which basically has a blank check for anything. Oh, we need to run 10 Super Bowl ads. Perfect, we'll do it. Right down to, an early stage company with 1 or 2 people bootstrapping. The same channel, it's over my shoulder in a Venn diagram. They're the same millions of partners are competing to get into one of those 7 spots, trusted spots around every customer in the world. $105 trillion worth of customers across every industry. So the question to the vendor is, how to do this. People are not opening emails, kind of the sales problems again. They're not picking up the phone. You've got to get to partners the same way you do to customers. There's actually a question that just came in on that, which us as humans, especially in the age of AI, are going to focus more on our circle of trust. The way to recruit resellers at scale is to surround them with their peers. And in the hallway chats they have, and the social groups they're in, and the 14 spheres of influence that I talked about, have their peers tell them that, hey, these are really good people over there. I'm having success. I think you're going to have success. So how do you do that at scale? One of the things I undertook, the last few years is to go count everything what you just talked about. There's actually, if you're in technology, for example, and you want to recruit, some of those 500,000 partners that might be in Microsoft's ecosystem, there are only 270 events. And when I say only, that's more than 1 per day. If you take away Christmas and take away summer, so you could be in 2 or 3 places at once. But you should seriously look at the 270. It's not 2,700, it's not 27,000. So it's not this really big number. But over the course of 2025, if I was a 2-person shop or if I was Microsoft, I'd be seriously looking at this event, because events are the most impactful in recruitment. And, we could go on forever about events, but it's not the fishbowl. It's not giving away a prize, setting up a 10 by 10 booth and build it and they will come. There's a whole community-led part of events, and the hallway chats and the hotel lobby bar and everything that goes into it. There's a lot of knowledge about what works and what doesn't, for succeeding vendors of every, very type. But you have to have an event strategy. But now you've covered 35% of your recruitment problem. Now, what's your social media strategy? There's 143 social groups that these 500,000 partners with 8 people each, so close to 4 million people, consume. And by the way, X% of them love that. There's 120 podcasts, 121. 12% of them love podcasts. When they walk their dog, when they drive to work, they literally suck up podcasts as a key influence. So as I go around the circle of this 14 spheres of influence, I can actually create a marketing strategy in detail, names, faces, places, with exact investment amounts and anticipated returns if I do each of those things well, to hit whatever recruitment target you want to hit. And recruitment's critical because you're trying to get to those 7 people that surround a customer. I'll use one example. Microsoft has outsold AWS, which got the start in public cloud, had 5 years of head start. They've outgrown them for 26 straight quarters. Microsoft does not have a better product. It's a lesser product. They do not have a better price. They do not have a better Super Bowl promotion ad. They literally run the company on place. More of those 7 people are going to be supportive of Microsoft than somebody else. So whether you're talking about the $3 trillion company up top or you're talking about a company down the bottom, it is a race to have those 7 trusted people around your prospect, around your customer, speaking nice things about you before, during, and after the transaction. That's it. Your product, your price, your place, your promote, all the stuff we learned in college is kind of moving to the second tier now. And we know in many markets, especially tech, the inventor of the technology, the early leader of the technology, rarely, if ever, wins. We always said the companies with the best marketing. Today, it's the companies with the best surround strategy. More of those 7 people. So you should be asking analysts like me in your market, in your TAM, your SAM, your SOM, who are my customers? Where are they? How do they break down? Who are the 7 people? Multiply it out and figure out what your TAM is for your surround strategy. And then ask the recruitment question. What do they read? Where do they go? And who do they follow? Who are the 100 most powerful super connectors? Who are the Bob Samuels? Who are the 100 people that surround that massive group of partners that I can go and hit my recruitment targets and better surround my customer? That's ABM version 2. That's PBM plus ABM.
That's super helpful. Thank you. Louise,
Yeah,
can
maybe if I can
you on
just
top of that?
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. So, I think we've all go through a process of trial and error, right? And seeing investments burn out and some things come through. And what I've learned from my experience is that coming back to a sense of community, to Jay's point, is just critical, right? Building out communities for people to not only learn on a content-based path from a vendor as a trusted business advisor, but also allowing them to talk to each other, because that's the number one reference point for sale, will be somebody who has recommended a solution and a company to another peer, right? And ultimately, people want to do business with people that they trust and they like. And to be that host of a community, to build out that community of your customers, involving your prospects, involving your partners, that is basically the way, whether it's a digital effort or it's a physical one. So, to Jay's point, people love to talk to people, but the days of these big events are kind of getting over, right? This is a time where you want to bring people together in small, relevant, very highly valued environments. So that ABM model is working through your channel partners to bring in their customers in a community environment and building out that digital community to support outside of those days when you can't be at an event every single day.
Thanks, Louise. That's great. Super helpful.
You're welcome.
So Jay, you've got a interesting graphic on the screen.
Yeah, so studying the 3 questions. What do you read? In other words, what do your partners read? And you can do this for your customers too. In those 28 moments, as you're consuming, learning, deciding, being influenced, your own psychology is going to say whether you like to listen, you like to read, you like to attend. I mean, it's all about you. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? I might record 5 or 6 podcasts a week. I've never listened to one. When I'm walking the dog or driving my car, I want to listen to music. It's actually a time for me to disconnect from what I do. But I do give it to the 12% of people who actually love podcasts, and it's their number one way to influence. So you can't avoid 12% of your audience. I always used to say, in social media, 2% of people like Twitter. I don't know who those 2% are, but for such an easy mechanism, why would you avoid 2% of your audience? So if I go around and execute, some people like being in associations, being on the board, having their name in lights and building legacy and associations, peer groups, what Louise just said. People love to work with their peers in smaller groups, but don't also discount events. The very large, we're part of Informa. We got acquired by Informa. So if you happen to be in security, we own Black Hat as an event. And you have some of these events that hundreds of thousands of people, attend Las Vegas. There are people in the scope that love that. They just eat up that as what they love to do. They collect socks, they go around, and they love the parties at night. So I'm inclusive of 100% of my target customers in my TAM, and I'm inclusive of 100% of my potential partners in my TAM. It's not me from my own psychology or outlook on life to tell others, what their preferences should be. So what I want to do is participate as much as I can, as much as I can afford, and do it in a way that I'm actually inclusive of that entire TAM. And this is how to do it. Each one of these, by the way, are lists that are published. You don't have to go find these things. So if you go follow me on LinkedIn or whatever, each one of these is work that's already been done. And then the follow-on question is, okay, now that I'm going to Black Hat, or now I'm going to a small event in Wichita, Kansas, how should I be thinking about the event? And how can I, punch above my weight? Those are the things as marketers we should be thinking about as, benefiting our organization.
And super helpful. Thank you both.
Thank you. Dana has a question. Then we've got only a few more minutes left, but I'll let Dana chime in. I think it's a similar question, but let's see.
Hey there.
Hey, Dana.
Hey, Dana.
What's up? Thank you so much. This has been awesome. Really, really appreciate just being able to kind of hear all these thoughts, obviously from the other panelists as well. And, you did already allude to the question I asked about the difference, but I think at least in a lot of our worlds, we're kind of at that middle section where it's both we're trying to help organizations find new partners and get creative in doing that, but also they want to in turn have those partners sell, right? And sell more of their stuff, right? And trying to find that right balance of helping on both sides. And so I think about AI and what you were talking about, trust, and kind of the methodology and model that Louise was talking about. And so I was just curious about the balance of that and your thoughts on, can AI instill the trust evenly on both a two customer type of model as well as a two partner type of model? And do you see any need for a different approach for either?
Yeah, it's a good question because, every partner, and by the way, you can see there's millions of them by different types, but they're all the same in one way. They grew out of, being entrepreneurs, or they are, they're very early stage entrepreneurs, many of them, trying to be different. There's no, there's no partner that's identical. It's like a fingerprint. So you start asking questions about your partners, and I'll just give you 6 of them that we kind of repeated earlier, which is how they're differentiating themselves in the market. And visually, it looks like this. So if I were to, go to a partner and think about AI and thinking about getting very specific with that partner, it's out of the days of, hey, blank, comma, I know you and your friends at blank are, what you're doing now is having AI going and consuming everything this partner, every digital trace this partner's ever left.
Yeah.
Every partner award they've won, every case study they built, every version of their website, every tweet they've ever sent. If I could get something to go and consume everything, know the buyer that they do the best with, know the sub-industries that they do their best work in, know geographically where they participate within 50 miles of, where white trucks can run, know the SMB up through enterprise sectors that they do their best work in. In the end, there are billions of permutations here.
Yeah.
There's no way humans can get to a 6-layer version of what that partner needs from you until AI.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the email? Hey, Dana, see that you're really targeting mid-sized banks in Northern Scotland. We have a team in Inverness that would love to meet with you. We've had some success at this bank and that bank right in the region. We know that you specialize in cybersecurity, and we know that you deliver through managed services. I've just broken down billions of permutations, and I'm talking to you in your language.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking about my own mid-sized bank targets in Northern Scotland going, oh my God, this company that's reaching out, literally has 10% of my TAM.
Yeah.
That is trusted. That's why AI is going to be my 8th person that I trust. I'm probably going to go to the other 7 then and say, hey, this company over here reached out to me speaking my language. What do you think about them?
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of probably play a little bit of stereo, but this changes everything on recruiting. Today, the success rate of recruiting, I know we're running out of time, but we live in an industry that has a 10 to 20% success rate. For every good 1 or 2 partners that activate, we have to recruit 10.
Yeah.
And that the next 8 or 9 become this long tail that we never know what to do with, because we're speaking the wrong language. We're measuring a fish by their ability to climb a tree. We kind of never figure that whole long tail thing out until every quarter we try to reactivate the long tail, spending money, good money after bad, trying to get a fish to climb a tree.
Yeah.
We could start here. Our batting average, could go up. We get to the Hall of Fame for batting 100 or 200. With AI, we could bat 300, 400, 500.
Yeah.
If we can start answering these 6 questions, executing on partner recruitment at where the partners want to make money and where they want to take their businesses, and no humans have to go read tweets and old case studies that were published 10 years ago. This is the future of AI and recruitment. And I think it's going to dazzle partners when we start talking to them in their language, as opposed to the language we want for them. Hello, blank.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dana. Jay, like you said, we're almost out of time. I think this is great. This has been as advertised. It's entertaining and educational, and it's always a pleasure. Any final final words of wisdom for the audience, and also for young folks who are getting into the business now, and what should they be honing up on, or what should they be focusing on?
Yeah, I think everything wraps around partnerships. 75% of world trade goes indirectly. When you start talking about non-transactional partnering activities, like that's just how the money flows. A company like Microsoft, the largest company in the world, 96% of their business, they measure as partner assisted. They have a way to measure all the partners and all the spheres of influence around their customers. Every company has to build those muscles to the same level. Everything kind of revolves now around these circles of trust. Everything revolves, and all the moments we have and all the stages of every journey now are defined by what's around it. And at the end of the cookie, which we didn't really talk about, but at the end of the cookie, when you can't buy third-party data about who's talking about what at what part of the journey, it's only going to be the partners and the data sharing and the work we do with the people that own those moments are going to make us smarter and help our ABM strategies work.
Beautiful. Good job. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.